Hello, my name is Ashley Lowe-Simmons, and I'm going to be talking to you about one of the grand challenges of social work in my experience with poverty and why financial education and application skills are so important. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Yes, I am an adult, but the relationship that I've had with my own mother, it has not been the easiest to establish or maintain. It seems like one of the most developmental relationships, one of the most crucial relationships in my life. I was never fully able to receive the opportunity for that relationship to develop and to bloom into the beautiful flower that it could have been during my earlier years of life. You see, our family lived in poverty. My mother was the primary breadwinner, and she struggled with so many different challenges. My mother's challenges have impacted my life today greatly. You see, it's so funny how poverty works. The trauma related to the experience of poverty can have lifelong effects on families for generational. Poverty transcends generational lines. Poverty has no boundaries, and poverty injects the culture, the language, and the hidden rules that are able to help them live out the experience. America is one of the wealthiest nations, but sometimes it has one of the highest rates of childhood poverty. Well, not sometimes, it always has one of the highest rates of childhood poverty. Research shows that children that are born to unmarried mothers have a greater chance of experiencing poverty. Poverty is being forced to make some really hard decisions about the basic necessities of life. So things like food, shelter, these things make people in poverty make really hard choices about do I keep a couple dollars in my pocket, or do I get something to eat? This is really someone's reality. Statistically, 14.5% of US households struggle with food insecurity. 35% of American children, African American children, are food poor. They have no idea where their next meal is going to come from. I'm currently working on my doctoral degree, and honestly, I hate school. I'm sure you're wondering how in the world is that possible when I've made it thus far. My disdain for formalized education is because it doesn't teach us the skills we need to live a life worth living. My mother didn't finish high school, but somehow everyone put this expectation on me to get an education, to get a good job, to get married, to have kids, to live the perfect American dream, right? So that I could be somebody. Not really. The American dream for marginalized communities and families that experience poverty looks more like substandard living conditions, under-resourced schools, drugs, violence, food, and financial insecurity. Living in poverty creates a sense of separation, of disharmony and lack between rich and poor communities. Living in poverty creates a continual system of stressors, which can impact brain development, especially for young children who are in their primal stages of their brains developing. Brain imaging studies show that childhood poverty decreases the gray matter in children's brains. The gray matter in our brain, it controls executive and social functioning. Living in poverty also increases chances to experience family stressors, poor maternal health, educational challenges, increased exposure to violence, mental and behavioral health problems. You see, the late great Frederick Douglass said it best. He said it's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. If the focus is on children when they are young, we could save money and we could decrease the likelihood of experiencing poverty in adulthood. Every single child deserves to experience enjoying their youth and not having to worry about their safety, their next meal, or if they're even going to be able to spend time with their mothers who work job after job after job tirelessly so that they can try to make a living for the family. You see, I realized as a child that even if I didn't like formalized education, it was highly necessary. Education was the vehicle that led me and my family to financial stability, to self-sufficiency, and a middle-class lifestyle. Education in its proper usage, it was the golden ticket for my family to escape the cycle of poverty. Unfortunately, everyone doesn't have that same opportunity or accessibility. The American government spends billions annually on anti-poverty programs. About 25% of adult women live below the poverty line, and they're single moms. About 23% of American children live in poverty. Motherhood is a blessing, but it can be devastating when a mother doesn't have the ability to meet the basic means for her family. Nearly half of American households are financially insecure. They lack adequate savings accounts. According to Forbes magazine, about 63% of Americans are unable to afford a $500 emergency. To fight poverty, we need financial equity. Families in poverty simply don't have enough. Historically, social assistance programs for these families attempt to serve as a financial cushion, but it ends up being an opportunity to stay safe and never reach one's fullest potential. Anti-poverty programs have very restrictive practices. When a family makes what the program deems to be too much money, that family loses assistance. So if a mom wants to go and get a better paying job, she may lose food stamps, she may lose temporary assistance for needy families, which is additional funds that are granted to families with children. She may lose her medical insurance for herself and her family. And the job that's paying better may not even have benefits. Many families are forced with trying to identify whether they should get a better job or struggle and not get a job and continue to receive public assistance. One specific area of education has not been made available, and that's financial education. It's not taught in schools, and all of the single moms that I've interviewed in my research state that they've never really learned about financial literacy at home when they were younger. When they learned about it is when they were older and they were in debt, so they thought it was too late. The home is the foundation for our belief and our value systems. Having a financially informed mindset is critical to bring American families one step closer to financial capability. You see, I was a single mother, and I grew up passionate about single momming in America because I realized that my experience wasn't just my experience. It was universal to many single mothers. And so I made a decision to do everything within my power to begin to shift the trajectory for single momming in America. I don't want any single mom or her children to ever have to struggle. I held on to what my mom taught me about the so-called American dream, and I never planned on being a single mom. But hey, life happens. And when it does, you have to deal with the cards that you're dealt and make the best out of it that you can. Being a single mother showed me that I possessed a level of strength that I didn't even know I possessed. I recall having an allergic reaction when I had moved to Baltimore, Maryland. I was in graduate school. It was just myself and my daughter. I took a medication that had sulfur in it. I was allergic. I had skin rashes that covered my body. My tongue was swollen. I was itching everywhere. So I called my primary care physician, and I was instructed to go to the emergency room. At that time, I didn't have a support system. It was just me and my infant daughter. So I had to rush myself, get myself together, get up and rush myself and my daughter to the local emergency room. It's quite cliche, but it's not uncommon for single mothers to do what they have to do with what they have. We're used to making a lot out of a little bit. Sometimes giving up seems like the best option, but I was always taught that anything worth having doesn't come easy. So everything is pretty much a fight. This is the life that single mothers in America are faced with on a daily basis. It's a perpetual cycle of stressors that cause mental, physical, and financial health problems. The wise Mahatma Gandhi says, "You can tell the quality of a nation by how it treats its children. I wonder what this means for our great nation. Now, I'm not here to bash America, but simply inform my listeners of the reality and the statistical data that our most vulnerable little citizens are faced with every single day, sometimes before they're able to even spell their names. Nelson Mandela says that the true character of society is revealed in how it treats its children. Children are the future, and it is our collective responsibility to ensure that all children are granted an equal and adequate opportunity at life, and at least the basic necessities. So let's talk money and data. America spends billions annually on poverty. About 25% of women, adult women, like I stated earlier, that live below the poverty line, they're single moms. 35% of African-American kids don't know where their food is gonna come from. 14% of US households struggle to provide food for their families. So what are we gonna do about this? These families don't have enough support. There's a concept called basic income. And with basic income, there was a program in Stockton that gave families $500 a month. Just $500. And this $500 granted some families the ability to pay off debt. Some families were able to catch up on bills. Some families were able to purchase food so that they could have family dinners. Things that we may take for granted, those simple things in life. This $500 granted them that ability. And so what I would like to do is teach financial education and application to families, because statistics say that financial education is not enough. You need to marry financial education with application. And that is my goal and my desire. And I would also like to incorporate a gamification approach, because I've learned from talking to single mothers and their children that would benefit from this program that learning about money isn't fun if you don't have money. And so by adding that gamified approach to it, it will add a fun component to learn about financial education and application, because we won't just teach them, we will show them how to become financially capable. So here's my prescription: making finances fun again and shifting from scarcity to abundance by using a dual generational approach, because the cycle ends now. To personally take them hand by hand, listen to their needs, to teach them how to become financial capable through education and through support. So this is what I present you with. I want you to take your right hand. I want you to take your left hand and look really closely at your hands. Ask yourself, how can you use what you have to make life better for someone that is living in poverty? Thank you.